multiply that by 4, the average family size, and that's about 20 million people out there who are asking for a better life, for an improvement standard of living. So this is my appeal to the President to concentrate or to focus more on housing. I belong to the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association, and we came up with a roadmap, a housing roadmap which we submitted to the BOI in 2012. Sad to say, when we were about to submit that to the head of HUDC, the chairman preferred to attend a conference of barangay captains. So we never really got to get the focus of government to housing. And for that reason, probably, that is why homelessness increased from 3.9 to 5.75. Housing has a very high multiplier effect, and I believe that with a strong government and private sector partnership, we will be able to put an end to homelessness, because in our roadmap, which covers a period up to 2030, and the target is 10 million houses, it is possible for the country to achieve zero homelessness by then. Thank you.
We would like to reiterate that the question is, what would you want the DILG to do so that you will invest in Mindanao?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Good afternoon. I am Juan Brea. I guess I am one of the very few who represents the millennial. I'm still young. Just to go back to the issue of corruption and technology, which also was raised by Secretary Tugade. I was requested in 2009 by former Finance Secretary Jesse Stanislao to help in good governance and to study the corruption in BIR. And so I did. I joined BIR in 2009, and just to realize that my compensation will be slashed into half. I was getting roughly 5,000 every payday. But the cases assigned to me as a BIR examiner is in hundreds of millions. And every week, there is a quota that I have to reach in order to keep my position as a revenue officer. So I would just like to say that the government would always say that, trust us, that we will deliver public service. But you know, it's easy to say that, but the people under you, the employees who are practically receiving few pesos and will always be exposed to opportunities that will more or less offset the other opportunities that they could earn in private sector. It's just so impossible. So I was just thinking, especially to the incoming Finance Secretary, if there is a hope to really improve the compensation of government. I'm not saying this because I want to go back to BIR and their compensation is really low, but it is really low. 5,000 every payday to collect millions of pesos is not realistic. And in relation to technology, I honestly don't understand why the government would still spend so much on papers, especially BIR, asking all SMEs to do their books of accounts manually, when first, they will not check it, two, there is an Excel file being submitted to them monthly, but they still penalize SMEs. I exactly know the answer, of course. I'm just saying that I think the issue of corruption will only be addressed if we accept the fact that we need to compete with the existing corrupt system. We need to compensate well the people in government so that they support a good strategy. And that we need to trust businesses that we are in good faith, that we will try to pay our taxes. Just make us feel that it is all worth it. Thank you, po.
Just a minute before everyone talks, we ask some of our commissioners and secretaries who entered late to please introduce themselves. Commissioner Paeldon. Please. please introduce yourself, sir, and the others who were late, who have not introduced themselves.
Dan, are we done with the previous questions? I have some questions for our business sector.
Sir, introduce yourself first so that...
Yes, I've already introduced myself a while ago. I'm Nick Faldon, BOC.
Others?
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Villar. I'm the incoming DPWH Secretary. I'd like to thank you for coming here. It's been an honor for me to be here with you for the past 2 days. Thank you.
Sir, to reiterate first, the question is, what would you want the DILG to do so that you will invest in Mindanao? I will choose the person who has an answer.
I think this is still about
No, we're talking about DILG now. Sir, after the next person, no, we just have one answer, one chance per person. Miss, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Gigi Sumbulan. I'm president of Bulacan Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I have a short answer and reaction to Secretary Tugale's issue on corruption. Corruption is really an issue of chicken and egg. I think in this case, the chicken is the government. So, because the private sector goes to government for permits, application, assistance, and all that. So you're the chicken. So if you don't, I would like to believe, and I have very strong faith in your statement, that you are not going to allow any corruption in your department. If we can have the assurance of everyone that they're not going to allow corruption in their respective agencies, I would think that the private sector will be, will be more conscientious and would really abide by protocol and procedures and not resort to bribing. So kayo po yung manok, kami yung itlog. So kung hindi ho kayo magpaparamdam, hindi naman ho kami. Definitely, hindi naman ho kami mag-a-attempt dahil additional cost ho sa amin yan.
Ma'am, sorry to cut short, but please answer what would you want the DILG to do?
Excuse me. My reaction is to Attorney Briones of the Education. Okay. I think the rules are not clear because earlier you were allowing people.
Yes, ma'am, but
So let us not argue. I will just react to Secretary Briones. With the promotion and promotion that the PCCI has initiated on the TVET program for the K-12, Bulacan, our chamber initiated the promotion and information dissemination of the senior high school and the role of business. So what did we do? We partnered with the academe in order to fast track the information dissemination, and it was us who initiated conferences, meetings with the academe, and I think the clinching point here is government. We realized that there must be a triumvirate in order to for this program to succeed. So now we have government, academe, and our chamber, and we have already established some areas of cooperation within the three sectors. Because we believe, even if business has some fears on the K-12 and the immersion program, meron po silang mga takot dyan, yung cost, yung time, yung liability, etc. So the government is the one that, our government, the provincial government of Bulacan, is the one that has helped to enjoin the private sector to be cooperative in the immersion program. So because of that, on the first month of our triumvirate existence, we have already established 10 memorandum of agreements between big businesses, specific business, and schools. So yun lang po, I'm just sharing the Bulacan experience. Thank you.
Okay, to wait just a minute, we would want our cabinet secretaries to have a few words before we continue.
If I may, thank you very much for the information on what business is doing and cooperating with on education programs. It is just that this year we are launching the senior high school program, and therefore we need to intensify and reach and be much more creative also in our efforts to work together. And we are very grateful for the contributions of the business sector. But I cannot resist responding to the comment on the levels of compensation in people and government. Maybe 5 years ago, an examiner would be earning 5,000. The rates have been steadily going up. At the level of the lower ranks, the rates of government are fairly competitive, actually. It is at the very high levels, with some exemptions, that some rates between public and private sector, there might be a degree of difference. Also, we have to appreciate the fact that public service is different from private service. When people join government, they know they are not going to get rich. They know that there are no opportunities for making profit, etc. They know that all the time. And to expect, perhaps, that one will become wealthy and prosperous in government may be the wrong kind of expectation, because there is a difference between public service and, of course, the private sector services. Also, we have to bear in mind that, for example, in education, a teacher from a small private institution will probably get 13,000, 14,000 a month, while a regular teacher, elementary school teachers, gets a minimum of 18,000 plus. It has been a long time since we had the impression that people in government were starving. So there are other causes of corruption other than compensation. All studies on corruption show that compensation is not the only factor, because we're talking about the public service. Thank you very much.
I would like to answer the question on the ILG. Just a moment, ma'am. We would like the incoming Senate President, the incoming Speaker of the House, and Secretary of PC to please introduce yourselves and welcome.
Good afternoon, MindaVote Alvarez, First District, Davao Ci.
Good afternoon to all. I'm Alfonso Busi, Secretary of Energy Designate. Thank you.
I'm Coco Pimentel, with the Philippine Senate. Thank you for inviting me to witness the activity.
Just to recap, what is happening here, sir, is that the panelists are the one asking questions to the business community on how they can. We also have Senator Angara in the House, so welcome, sir, if you want to join us. Okay, so the question was, what would you want the DILG to do so that you will invest in Mindanao? So there was one person who...
I'd throw in a similar question in general related to the question of the DILG Secretary Designate. As we promote investment, the usual issue being tossed to us be able to attract especially foreign investment is to amend the constitution, especially on certain limits to ownership like land and other industries that are part of the constitution. Might be a good time to ask the body, do you think there is a need to amend the constitution and the ownership limitations to certain industries and land, etc., just to be able to attract foreign investments? Because some sector would say there's no need to amend that. Investments will come in if they want to. There are other ways to address those limitations. Some say that there is a need. So we'd like also to get their views related to attracting foreign investments. Thank you.
Before we answer that, we also want to acknowledge Executive Secretary Medialdea, who is also here. So we have two questions on the floor. What would you want the DILG to do so that you will invest in Mananao? And what do you think, do you think there is a need to amend the Constitution to attract foreign investment? So please introduce yourself and state your industry.
Yes, I'm Dan Sakamoto well, I'm a consultant for the Japanese investor. I'd like to answer to the two questions from how Japanese investors can come to the Mindanao for the business, and also if there is any need for the constitutional change for the Japanese investors. Well, I started my career as a PricewaterhouseCoopers here, so for these 20 years, successfully, we don't need to do the under-table transactions. Well, in the meantime, I have been talking with 1,000 Japanese investors and successfully incorporate 200 companies here. But only a few invested into Mindanao. One of them is cultivating chrysanthemum flowers, high-value flowers in Bukidnon. For these 3 years endeavor, they can make export to Japan. But few months ago, unfortunately, they are stopping off the operation in Bukidnon. So the first thing we'd like to request for the new cabinet members to make Mindanao the possible destination for the Japanese investment is the safety and security. That is the most important thing for the Japanese investors. But at the same time, please make a big promotion of the Mindanao, because our investors really appreciate the Mindanao for the very good condition of the farming. Actually, the owner of the flower farming business appreciate the Mindanao going to be the potentially one of the world flower blooming business comparing to the other countries like Malaysia or Africa. Well, as for the constitutional change, actually, I understand that you are seriously discussing about the land ownership, but most of the Japanese investors doesn't mind, actually, for not having ownership of the land. Rather, they are willing to invest more into the Philippines for participating in the domestic market, where, for example, the Retail Trade Act only accepting the investment of the foreigners, which minimum paid-up capital is at $2.5 million. That is too big. Well, as a Japanese investor, we can work with minority participation, but we like to work with your local partners, like a 40% to be invested by $200,000 or so for the retail trade, so that we can increase our investment into the local market, comparing compatible with other investment destinations like Thailand or Vietnam. Thank you very much.
Our cabinet secretaries, if you want to respond to any of their comments, you may do so. So, is anyone else on the PILG?
I'm Emma Miares of the Export Development Council. We would like the DILG to strengthen the supervision among the local government executives of the LGUs. Right now, there is already a study at the DILG that there are violations of the local government code already, regarding the imposition of taxes among the truckers who pass through their roads. And these are national roads. So the ILG cannot do anything with it as of now because they wanted some proof of the stickers or the ORs that the ILG, the ILG issues. But the truckers doesn't receive any of these ORs, just the stickers, and they are imposed annually. And this actually contributes to the higher logistics costs of bringing goods from Manila to the regions and back. So that's another cost of doing business. The other issue that I want to bring up is the SOP in the barangay bureaus. We have sent the complaint to the DILG on the SOP that is imposed on the barangay captains, or these are charged also by the contractors. They use the word contractors. And the barangay has a lot of projects that can develop the barangay, but they're confined only to the contractors' recommendations. And these are mostly sports equipment, declogging, which are done annually. So there are more creative projects that will develop the barangay, but they're only confined to this. So we recommend that the ILG imposes its more supervision, and if there is any education among the elected officials, and if there is a penalty for any violation of the local government code, we very most appreciated.
Anyone from our secretaries and senator want to comment or ask?
Good afternoon again. Perhaps you have known in the last 2 weeks about the supposed resolution issued by, midnight resolution issued by the Department of Justice for sale. This was made known through newspapers and television by a group who call themselves FAIT, or Filipino Alliance for Transformation and Empowerment. They are accusing, or they were accusing the Secretary of Justice of rushing some resolutions to beat the June 30 deadline in exchange for some monetary consideration. When this was brought to our attention, I formed a team of USEC designates, a 3-man team. And we informed the reporters reporting this that we are ready to face them with a request that they should have some evidence, even only testimonial, if they do not have any written or documentary evidence to show us. When no one came to see us, we went to social media, Facebook and other social media, to determine who are the persons behind this FAIT, Filipino Alliance for Transformation and Empowerment. We posted on their wall that we need to talk to them, or they could call us, giving the our telephone numbers where we could be contacted. The accusation against the Secretary of Justice, incumbent Secretary of Justice, are very serious. And as we reiterate that they should come forward with even testimonial evidence. up to now, despite our repeated requests, nobody came forward. My question to the business community is, would you be like this? Seeing anomalous penalties in government, denouncing it in newspapers, but very short of prosecuting or offering to prosecute the guilty parties. What would you do when your corporations or companies are the ones involved and at the receiving end of these corrupt officers? The Department of Justice is bureaucracy is very big. In itself, it's very big throughout the country. We have at least 10 attached agencies. We have the NBI, Bureau of Immigration, which I'm sure you are very much involved. The Bureau of Correction, the PCGG, the Land Registration Authority, where many are complaining about the bribes being asked by this government officials. We have also, as an attached agency, although in a limited way, the Office of the Solicitor General, the Government Corporate Council, the settlement. And so we would like to ask you, would you pursue or would you tell us, would you help us prosecute this corrupt government officials, or would you be timid or shy and pursuing what you saw and persecuting or prosecuting what has to be prosecuted? Before I end my question, I would like to second the about corruption of my classmate, Secretary Duterte. When the only stint when I joined the government for a few months, he told me in 2012, he assumed office, I think, in December 2011. I've been practicing, I've never been in government, and I've been practicing for more than 40 years at that time. He told me, Bit, could you join me in drug development? Para sa bayan ito, hindi tayo magnanakaw. So, I want you to streamline the legal department of my company, CDC. And so I joined him, and he named me as his vice president and chief legal counsel of the Drug Development Corporation. I'd like to state that, and this is true for all locators who have experience to be dealing with Secretary Duterte. Any locator or visitor going to his office with a token, with a gift, would have to leave the office after the meeting of Mr. Duterte, bringing with him that token or gift. This is, I think, should be emulated by all government officials. So, going back to my question, I would like to throw this question to all of you. Would you prosecute these penalties in government if you have the evidence and the eyewitness to do so? Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from our panel?
I'm Nick Feldon from DOC. I think it is one of the agencies that we really want to hear as early as now. 2 weeks ago, when I was asked to join the BOC, I started my listening tour. Because I must admit to you, I know nothing about running this bureau. So in the past 2 weeks, I've spoken to at least 4 past commissioners sa Bureau. And they have one common dilemma that they pointed out that since day 1 of their term, it is going to fail. And I think this has so much to do with all of us. So I would like to lay down the premise of my question and my appeal to you. Every time there is a new set of BOC officials, these are compositions of recommendees from different powerful brokers of influence in this society, whether they are politicians, businessmen, religious sector, and so forth. So the setup of the Bureau is like a setup of individual syndicates inside the Bureau running their own business interests. So how do you expect the Bureau to succeed under that setup in the first place? So my appeal to you is, if you want the Bureau to succeed this time, please ask your boss, ask your friends, ask your associates, ask yourself to refrain from messing up with, first, appointments of people in the Bureau. Because we cannot run this Bureau to help facilitate your trades if we will go back to the old setup of bringing in people. So I'm appealing this to you right now. Thank you very much.
I'm Rody, incoming presidential spokesman. I just have a short question. What are you really expecting from the president for the next 6 years? Just a word, something to describe what you really want from him. What are you really expecting from the president for the next 6 years?
Any other questions or comments before I take the floor? Okay, so we have 2 questions. Would you help prosecute corrupt officials, and what are you really expecting from the president in the next 6 years? Any takers? Please state your name and your industry.
I am Datu Punana. I am from the Manobo tribe of Agusan del Sur. We are located in the tribe borders of Bukidnon, Davao del Norte, Compostela Valley, Surigao del Sur, and Agusan del Norte. This is in Caraga. We are not just indigenous peoples, we are also businessmen, I think, because we have developed, and it's still under the development, initially 67,000 hectares of our land. And this is self-initiative. In all the questions of the secretaries, it hits the heart for us because we have gone through it and we are still alive to tell the tale. First, education. We have sent our children to school. Lately, former Secretary Joel Villanueva, we met him in ABS-CBN. Through Henry Humagadias after our interview. And what we asked the Secretary was slots in TESDA for heavy equipment operators. And Madam Secretary Briones, we have now 17 graduates from TESDA, from heavy equipment operators to mechanics, all sorts. And they are now running all our projects. We have worked on our own heavy equipment. We have transport trucks, bulldozers, and all that. We have developed our own roads with the cooperation of the municipality of La Paz. And this is thank you to the DILG. The answer to your questions is this: just sincerity on the part of government to deliver what you promise to deliver. For the President, Mr. President, we met in 2001 when you were back in politics against former Mayor De Guzman. Just do what you promised to do. Insofar as corruption is concerned, we overcame that by getting out of the circle of comfort of those people who really wants to stop the development in the rural areas, especially among the indigenous peoples. We all know that under Philippine law, there are two entities that can hold more than 10 hectares of land. That's the state, that means the government, and indigenous peoples. Land ownership, we have overcome that too. We have foreign partners in our oil palm plantation, and that is already a 10,000 oil palm plantation with an ECC. And it was not an easy thing to do. Very, very hard. Very hard. We have to overcome biases, and the very big question is, you are indigenous peoples. Can you really do this? And sirs, to Secretary Togoate, we have proven our merit. Thankfully, in our struggle, we found friends in government, we found friends in business, and I'm referring to key leaders of the PCCI, Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industries. We have spoken to secretaries. We have gone directly to them outside the circle of comfort of local interests. So yes, this opportunity to be able to speak to the incoming cabinet members of the President-elect is an opportunity that none has given us voluntarily before. We have 18 government projects all being implemented at the same time. And it's just us with the guidance of the key leaders of the PCCI. Land ownership, we also agree with the position that there is really no need for 100% ownership of business. The Canadians and the British has gone through all due diligence, invoking legal firms outside of the Philippines, and one of the biggest legal firms in the Philippines, Sisim Salazar at Maitan Hernandez. And they have rendered an opinion that the structure that we have put forth works. There was a representation by a fellow Asian, Japanese consultant, I believe, and he said that they are not really after 100% ownership. Yes, it can work. We have proven that. We have gone through the gauntlet of proving that. So, what do we want from the President? Sincerely, to implement what he has promised to implement. That is all. That's all that we ask.
Before we continue, just a minute, may we ask our secretaries to, starting from Secretary Villar, to tell us a bit more of your plans in the DPWH. So each one will give their short plan so that our audience can react and give more opinions to how you want to ask it.
Thank you. Very briefly, plans for the DPWH. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mark Villar. And I'd just like to say, the past few years, the infrastructure spending has been ranging from 1 to 3% of our GDP. Unfortunately, we find this insufficient. That's why in the next coming year, we can expect that infrastructure spending will increase to 5% of GDP. Traditionally, countries such as China, India spend anywhere between the 8 to 10%. So it's only now that the Philippines is reaching that point in infrastructure. And I think the lack of spending in infrastructure can be seen. You can see that the traffic, our problems with the delivery of goods and services, this is all a function of the underspending over the past few years. So in general, you can expect that this is a problem that our government will address. we'll be very aggressive for infrastructure programs. Specifically, we have our connectivity programs, or what we call convergence. These are tourism convergence, agricultural convergence programs, wherein we identify farms, major tourism spots, and in addition to that, major transportation areas, and we focus on fixing the roads that lead up to these certain locations. And aside from that, we also intend on creating a decongestion program. As we all know, the 2.4 billion pesos a day is identified by the NEDA. We lose 2.4 billion pesos a day just due to traffic. This is obviously a constraint on our growth of our country. If we're to hit 7 to 8% growth, definitely this is something that we have to address, and I'm sure with our incoming Secretary Tugade, working hand in hand with him, we'll be able to mitigate these problems. So, without going into too many specifics, I just like to say in general, you can expect that we'll have very aggressive infrastructure programs, a very ambitious infrastructure programs that will be comprehensive and address all the problems. And I think that we can expect that within the next couple of years, we'll see significant improvements in our infrastructure. Again, it's been a pleasure for me to hear all your suggestions, and I think this event is a good signal that for everyone, that this government will be one which will be very sensitive to the needs and requests of all Filipinos. Even our colleagues, our friends from the business sector. Rest assured, we'll be very sensitive to your needs, and we're here to serve. So again, thank you very much, and good afternoon.
My name is Felipe Cruz Jr. of Field Systems, President of Blackstone Energy, and a shareholder of FFQs. My question is to you all, department and secretariats, that you only have 6 years for this position. And if we wait for design for your projects under the BOT law, unsolicited bid, you must respect the copyright and the unsolicited bid and have the Swiss challenge. For the improvement of Mindanao, where you only have 6 years, if you wait for the design of the government,
corruption in your department. If we can have the assurance of everyone that they're not going to allow corruption in their respective agencies, I would think that the private sector will be, will be more conscientious and would really abide by protocol and procedures and not resort to bribing. So kayo po yung manok, kami yung itlog. So kung hindi ho kayo magpaparamdam, hindi naman ho kami. Definitely, hindi naman ho kami mag-a-attempt dahil additional cost ho sa amin yan.
Ma'am,
So,
sorry to cut short, but please answer what would you want the DILG to do?
excuse me. My reaction is to Attorney Briones of the Education. Okay. I think the rules are not clear because earlier you were allowing people,
but
so let us not argue. I will just react to Secretary Briones. With the promotion that the PCCI has initiated on the TVET program for the K-12,
Previous questions, I have some questions for our business sector.
Sir, introduce yourself first so that...
Yes, I've already introduced myself a while ago. I'm Nick Faldon, BOC.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Villar, the incoming DPWH Secretary. I'd like to thank you for coming here. It's been an honor for me to be here with you for the past 2 days. Thank you.
To reiterate first, the question is, what would you want the DILG to do so that you will invest in Mindanao? I will choose the person who has an answer.
I think this is still about
No, we're talking about DILG now. Sir, after the next person. No, we just have one answer, one chance per person. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Gigi Simbulan. I'm President of Bulacan Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I have a short answer and reaction to Secretary Tugale's issue on corruption. Corruption is really an issue of chicken and egg. I think in this case, the chicken is the government. So, because the private sector goes to government for permits, application, assistance, and all that. So you're the chicken. So if you don't
Except the other opportunities that they could earn in private sector, it's just so impossible. So I was just thinking, especially to the incoming Finance Secretary, if there is a hope to really improve the compensation of government. I'm not saying this because I want to go back to BIR and their compensation is really low, but it is really low. 5,000 every day to collect millions of pesos is not realistic. And in relation to technology, I honestly don't understand why the government would still spend so much on papers, especially BIR, asking all SMEs to do their books of accounts manually when first they will not check it, two, there is an Excel file being submitted to them monthly, but they still penalize SMEs. I exactly know the answer, of course. I'm just saying that I think the issue of corruption will only be addressed if we accept the fact that we need to compete with the existing corrupt system. We need to compensate well the people in government so that they support a good strategy. And that we need to trust businesses that we are in good faith, that we will try to pay our taxes. Just make us feel that it is all worth it. Thank you po.
Just a minute before everyone talks, we ask some of our commissioners and secretaries who entered late to please introduce themselves. Commissioner Fayaldon, please introduce yourself, sir, and the others who were late. who have not increased their service.
Done, are we done with the
10 million houses, it is possible for the country to achieve zero homelessness by then. Thank you.
We would like to reiterate that the question is, what would you want the DILG to do so that you will invest in Mindanao?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Good afternoon, I am Mon Brea. I guess I am one of the very few who represents the millennial. I'm still young. Just to go back to the issue of corruption and technology, which also was raised by Secretary Tugade. I was requested in 2009 by former Finance Secretary Justice Stanislao to help in good governance and to study the corruption in BIR. And so I did. I joined BIR in 2009 and just to realize that my compensation will be slashed into half. I was getting roughly 5,000 every payday. But the cases assigned to me as a BIR examiner is in hundreds of millions. And every week, there is a quota that I have to reach in order to keep my position as a revenue officer. So I would just like to say that the government would always say that trust us, that we will deliver public service. But you know, it's easy to say that, but the people under you, the employees who are practically receiving few pesos and will always be exposed to opportunities that will more or less
Meaning, multiply that by 4, the average family size, and that's about 20 million people out there who are asking for a better life, for an improvement standard of living. So this is my appeal to the President to concentrate or to focus more on housing. I belong to the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association, and we came up with a roadmap, a housing roadmap which we submitted to the BOI in 2012. Sad to say, when we were about to submit that to the head of HUDSI, the chairman preferred to attend a conference of barangay captains. So we never really got to get the focus of government to housing. And for that reason, probably, that is why homelessness increased from 3.9 to 5.75. Housing has a very high multiplier effect, and I believe that with a strong government and private sector partnership, we will be able to put an end to homelessness, because in our roadmap, which covers a period up to 2030, and the target is